The federal government and opposition are trading blows on the issue of a disability royal commission, with each accusing the other of playing politics with the issue. Labor leader Bill Shorten says the Prime Minister Scott Morrison ran away from the issue in Parliament last week, but Mr Morrison says his counterpart is misleading the public. Political reporter Matt Doran has more from Canberra.
On Thursday, we saw something quite remarkable, a question time that was extended far beyond its usual finishing time. On Thursdays in particular, when MPs and senators are generally in a bit of a hurry to escape the capital and return to their electorates and their hometowns, the question time, which normally wraps up around 3:10, 3:15, went through right until 4:30. Now, earlier in the day in the Senate, a Greens motion put forward by WA Senator Jordan calling for the establishment of a royal commission into the disability sector was passed by the upper house. That then was to travel to the lower house, where the lower house could discuss this measure as well, and it didn't arrive in time to be dealt with. Now, Labor suggests that that's because the government didn't call an end to question time, didn't allow other business to be brought on. The coalition says that the message hadn't arrived from the upper house, and they claim that had it shown up in time, it would have been dealt with and it would have passed. Scott Morrison has been speaking with reporters in Tasmania today, and he says that as far as he's concerned, there does need to be a look at what further support can be given to the disability sector. He isn't voicing his support at this stage for a disability royal commission, and a royal commission is something that is established by the Governor-General on the advice of the executive government, but he says that that any accusations that he was trying to simply run down the clock and escape dealing with this are wrong.
We were prepared to allow that motion to go through on Thursday afternoon. The simple fact was the motion wasn't coming back to the House of Representatives on Thursday afternoon. Were it coming back, it would have passed through the House, and on Monday, when it comes in, it will also pass through the House. The government will make any ultimate decisions about royal commissions. That's who makes decisions about royal commissions. But even today, I've been in contact with disability advocates about this issue.
They say that that tactic, quite an unusual tactic of allowing question time to run, shows that the government was desperate to avoid another example of its numbers, or another instance of its numbers on the floor of Parliament being tested after that vote earlier in the week with regards to medical transfers of asylum seekers and refugees from Manus Island and Nauru. The opposition leader Bill Shorten has been in Melbourne this morning meeting with families and victims of people who have suffered abuse within the disability care sector. He says that this has been a Labor policy for some time, that the Parliament had an opportunity to get this matter dealt with last week, denying the fact that that motion was not ready to be dealt with in the lower house. And he says that come next week, when this matter comes before the Parliament again, he hopes that it will get across the line.
Instead of voting for that measure, which is well overdue, he ran down the clock because he was more worried about appearing that he didn't control the Parliament than doing the right thing. Now, I'm optimistic that this government, realising the public pressure which has materialised, which we were going to do after an election if successful, we now have an opportunity to do this now.
And Matthew, we've also seen that the coalition has endeavoured to bring the issue back to border protection.
This will be a feature of the election campaign as the nation crawls ever closer to that date with the polling booths sometime in May. Scott Morrison still seizing on the decision by Labor to vote in favour of changing the medical transfer scheme for asylum seekers and refugees on Manus Island and Nauru. We've seen a lot of government rhetoric during the week suggesting that this will open up the floodgates for the people smuggling trade to kick off again. The Labor Party says that that is not the case, that there are express guidelines, express provisions in this legislation which limit its application to only the current group of asylum seekers and refugees, not future asylum seekers and refugees who try to travel to Australia by boat. This is a debate which we will continue to hear next week when federal Parliament returns, possibly for its final week, or final week before the election, definitely its final week before the budget in April.